I'm Cherylanne Skolnicki, and this is Brilliant Balance, the show for working women who are ready to shine. Each week, I bring you ideas, inspiration, and insight on balance, business, and getting it all done gracefully. You ready? Let's be brilliant. This is episode 329 of the Brilliant Balance podcast, Gain Wealth Wisdom. Today, we're exploring prosperity with Mackey McNeill. So it is every now and then that you meet someone in your life who immediately you know you have something to learn from them. And Mackey is one of those people that I was introduced to by not one, but two different Brilliant Balance team members this fall, one unbeknownst to the other. And I sort of felt like that had to be a sign. And when I met her, I was even more sure that it had been. Mackey she's just exceptional. She is a wise, inspiring, successful entrepreneur who is really eager to pay forward what she's learned in service to others and today to all of us. So I know that what lies ahead for you here is a truly enlightening conversation. It is a great one to hear early in the year, particularly because financial goal setting is so top of mind for so many people early in the year, whether it is personal finances or business finances, particularly if you are an entrepreneur, business owner. And Mackey really has depth of experience in both of those arenas. She brings 40 years of experience to helping business owners achieve what she thinks of as the three freedoms of prosperity. And she digs into those in a pretty healthy level of detail in this episode. We talk about money freedom, time freedom, and mind freedom, which is one that I think a lot of us overlook. And Mackey really is I think of her as a forward-thinking entrepreneur. She has gone through most of the challenges of business ownership firsthand, really transforming her CPA firm into what it is today and what she says it ought to have always been. And her really unique perspective informed Prosper for Business, which is an ahead-of-its-time approach to financial coaching for business owners. Mackey is also a professional speaker, an award-winning, internationally published author of 2 books, including The Prosperity Playbook, Planning for a Successful Family Business Succession, and The Intersection of Joy and Money, which is more focused on personal finance. She is regularly quoted as a financial expert by major media, and when she is not sharing her passion for spreading the 3 freedoms of prosperity, you will likely find her hiking in the woods of her 36-acre working farm, playing with her grandchildren, or drawing inspiration from the abundance of nature on her permaculture-principled homestead. I mean, how's that for an introduction? I adore this woman. I know you will too. So without further ado, let me introduce Mackey McNeill. All right. Well, Mackey, welcome to the show. I am so delighted to get to see your smiling face again.
It's wonderful to be here, Cherylanne.
These are so fun when it's with someone who I know at least a little, and I feel like there's some rapport and I've got some behind the scenes, and they're just my favorite. So thanks for doing this. It's going to be a great conversation about one of your favorite topics, and honestly, one of most people's least favorite topics. So I think that's a nice flip. I thought we might just start with something we always want to know about prominent women who are successful, particularly entrepreneurs. What's on your calendar today? What have you been up to before this interview? Where are you headed after this?
That's okay. Well, Mondays are my day to do my office thing. So I check in with my team. Sometimes we have a management team. So sometimes I actually go to the management meeting. I did not go to management meeting today. I only went to the sales meeting. And the rest of the day, this afternoon, I'm doing a podcast with you, and I'm going to have a new client interview this afternoon.
Awesome. I love it. I would love it if you would share a little bit about the story to entrepreneurship. So, we've set up in the introduction that you have been an incredibly successful entrepreneur. You happen to be a woman. That's awesome too. I think you're a successful entrepreneur in your own right. I love the story that led you to entrepreneurship. Can you tell us that story?
Well, I don't remember how I told it to you the first time, Cherylanne.
That's okay.
I'll tell you that ultimately I was unemployable. It's like you have to think about like the time frame. I'm got lots of gray hair. So is this like 1982? I'm decided to start a family. I'm a CPA and I'm trying to navigate how do women start things. And my husband kept saying, and I kept interviewing for jobs and I would go to the job interview. Imagine this. And I would say, I want a part-time job or I want to work just tax season only because I'm a CPA, but I don't want a full-time position. And the men, of course, there were always men in charge. They would sort of pat me on the head and go, thank you, little lady. We'll talk to you later. I never heard back from them. But my husband said to me, honey, the problem is you're an entrepreneur. You think you can do it better than everybody else. And so you just need to plunge in. So literally, I'm looking at a house one day and I'm telling this realtor, that I'm a CPA, blah, blah, blah. And he says, well, can you do this? And I don't even remember what he asked me. But I remember I said, yes.
Yes, I can.
I said to my husband, I got my first client.
So great.
So from there, I just, I always had a vision that I could do something really wonderful and life-changing for business owners, because I think I told you that my dad went bankrupt as an entrepreneur. So I lived that story. That was the family story, right? Loved his business, loved what he did, but he was really lousy with money. And I always loved money. I mean, I was the kid who saved the quarter that I got for taking care of the neighbor's cat and walked down to the savings alone and put it in my savings account.
Oh, I love it. Yeah.
So,
and you and I talked about this earlier that, you loved having money, not necessarily so much spending money, like as evidenced by that story. Yes. Very different things. Very different
thing. And that spending money and enjoying money, that's why I wrote the book. Then, you write about what you need to learn.
Yes.
And Just of Enjoying Money was about me really saying, hey, something, I have really been good my whole life at saving money. And I think I need to balance that a little bit with some other things.
How to enjoy it and how to enjoy having it a little bit. So you have two businesses today, essentially. What would you say you're trying to help people do with your businesses as they're structured today?
Well, today, definitely our vision is to help people achieve their big epic goals, whatever they are. If it's an individual couple, they're usually coming in us trying to sort through how does their personal plan, how does their investment plan, how does their goals really fit their life. And we start everything with intention. What is your personal prosperity intention? And if we're working with someone as a business owner, the business is their path to their personal prosperity goals, because that's where business owners get their money.
Yes.
So we start with what is the business? What's the purpose of the business? That's always our first question, that purpose and intention question, because I think that's what really drives our passion. And if we don't have passion around what we're doing, the chances are we're going to burn out and we're not going to get there. But
amen.
And knowing that if we see ourselves as financial coaches more than we do as financial advisors, and we could talk about why that's so important. But really understanding that passion and then moving on from there. Again, what are your epic goals and how can we really come with our financial skills and you come with your business skills, and let's put them together and co-create in this space of helping you create those epic dreams.
So the word prosperity really sits at the epicenter of this as that's the guiding vision. Tell me a little bit about how you define that term as you're working with both business and individual clients.
Yeah, thank you for asking that. For years, I wouldn't define it. I always said it's an inside job. It's an inside job. And then finally, people said, we have to kind of define it somewhere, Mackey. So I thought, what I think of it as is prosperity is like achieving what I call mind, time, and money freedom. So we think of money freedom right off. I want to have money freedom. I want to be able to enjoy my money, not just save it, but spend it and have some balance with it and feel confident in it. But mind freedom. Am I worried about my money? Am I worried about my business? Or can I walk away from it and have some peace of mind while I do other things? And then, of course, time freedom. At the end of the day, we can always make more money, but we can't make any more time. So if we're, as entrepreneurs or people, spending all of our time doing things and never getting to our goals, then that's not it either. So prosperity has to be some combination of these things for you.
I just think that's such worth underscoring that there's all three kinds of freedom. A lot of people are being sold financial freedom, right? We have the whole FIRE movement of young people trying to stop working early. And so I think the money freedom piece of it, people really get when you think about prosperity or the word financial freedom, but the time freedom and the mind freedom, to me, that was one of the most compelling elements of this was, are you still worried? So many of the women that I'm in daily contact with are really governed by a scarcity paradigm. And I think it's so prevalent in I think we're just wired for scarcity, like in virtually everything, but especially money. And really the only thing that we have scarcity about is time. Like to your point, it's like the one non-renewable resource. So is that often the one that's overlooked is, when people come in thinking mostly about money freedom and not thinking about time and mind freedom?
I think so. I think that, for the most part, they might have and they might be thinking about the mind piece, but time, especially when you're younger, you think it's expansive. It's only as you get older, you begin to think of, there's maybe less of a future for me than there is of a past, and really enjoying ourselves. And I think that's one of the things the next generation has on the boomers. The boomers just like dived in, we're going to work, we're going to be the worker bees, we're going to make
forever.
It. And this generation says, well, I'm going to have some balance as I go. I'm going to have some experiences. I'm going to enjoy life as I go through. And I think that's very healthy. And so almost every boomer owner I talk to always says, like, what happened to their work ethic? Right. Your work ethic is exactly what ours should have been. They're really changing the paradigm, and that's a good thing.
It is a good thing. And I think I read somewhere in the research I was doing for today, you stated it as it's the time to enjoy life and the money to pursue your passions. And I think that's another really great articulation, right? That it's not only like thinking about the ability to take a slow morning, right? Mm-hmm. The ability to take an early Friday, the ability to have a weekend where you're not thinking about your job if you have one or your business if you own one. Like that is a really compelling picture to me, the time to enjoy your life and the money to pursue your passions. Because you do meet people regularly who are like, I do have time maybe, but I feel really constrained in what I can spend. Maybe I don't feel like I can travel, or I don't feel like I can have these experiences that I really want to have. And that both and feels really important in the prosperity definition.
Yes, I think it is both and it's really finding some level of balance. But I think for me, the passion, you mentioned passion, the passion piece is a theme that runs across our lives. Mm-hmm. It's really, if you think about accomplishing anything in your life, it's usually the things that you are driven to really do, you need some passion for.
You do.
You're working outside your passion, you're just going to burn out. Mm-hmm. You're going to burn out.
There's nothing magnetically like pulling you toward the work if you're not in. And I don't know, the word passion is probably overused. It's on a lot of wall hangings, but I know exactly what you mean. It's like, you kind of have to like it. There's got to be something about it that's just compelling in and of itself for you to stay in it.
Right. And I think when my husband years ago was saying to me, you're an entrepreneur, what he was saying is you really don't have passion for somebody else's work, Mackey. You have passion to put your own imprint on it. And he was right. I didn't have passion for the way my profession is crafted. It didn't seem to me like it really served people. And I was really all about serving people.
And, when the word money enters a conversation, first of all, I think it's a taboo subject for a lot of people, right? I was definitely raised like we don't talk about money. We don't talk to other people about money, about our income or any of those financial. Very taboo, right? We do not share. Mm-hmm. And so, but the other word that I think comes up other than privacy around money is stress. Like, so many people are so stressed about money, largely about feeling like they don't have enough of it, right? Or that they're going to run out. So why do we get so stressed about money? You've been studying this a long time through your work. Like, what is the origin of us being so stressed about money?
Well, I think part of it, there's a lot of things, I think, but at the core of it, we think about Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Mm-hmm. Well, money is how we get our basic needs met: food, shelter, and I don't know what it is, but basically the things that maintain human bodies, those we require money. So there is a piece of having, if we don't have the ability, if you look at studies of low income families and you look at particularly single household women, there's been a fair number of studies that like, why don't these people make good decisions around money? Because they're constantly stressed out. Yes. And from this place of like, do I pay for my husband, my kids, do I buy them the books they need for school, or do I
pay the electric bill?
Yeah. Do I pay the electric bill, or do I get this prescription that somebody needs? And you can't decide. How can you be okay? How can you live a life of prosperity from that? You can't. So we have to be able to get above this level of minimal processing of, am I going to be able to, I've had people say to me, my tires go out of my car, I'm out of business because I don't have enough money for new tires.
Ouch.
And, we unfortunately don't live in a society that values, I'm a firm believer of universal income. I think it's a concept pastime. And I think that we've certainly proven that we can build a lot of wealth in our country. So I think sharing it and giving people that freedom, and over you see the studies that show when people have a certain basic amount of income, they make better decisions, they live more generous lives, they're better mothers, they're better fathers, they just everything about their life shifts because we're not in that scarcity piece. So getting to the intersection of joy and money, you really have to first get above the scarcity piece.
Yes. But even people who are, right? I know women who are very like objectively affluent, who are still we talked this the last time we chatted, like they're still very stressed about money. Do you think it's the fear, like some kind of primal fear that will drop down to a level where we are not safe because our basic needs are not met? Or do you think there's something else going on? Like the hedonic treadmill comes to mind.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And I think that there's a couple of things. One is, we have no perspective, so we're absent of perspective. We live from our childhood, right?
Yes.
So whatever, and it could be that your parents were affluent, but they always talked about not having money. We kind of think that if I was raised in a household that was always fearful about money, I'll be fearful about money. No, we make up our own version of what those beliefs but they come from those early experiences. So they're, if you study the brain, that creates sort of deep ruts in the brain.
Yes.
And that's our habitual way of choosing. So we have this habitual way. We've come to the place of having an habitual way of choosing. For myself, I remember a coach, a very wise coach of mine said, well, because I was making a lot more money on my top line and my bottom line wasn't growing. And I hired her and I thought she was going to work with me on the bottom line. And she said, Mackey, what do you think about rich people? And I said, I don't know. I want you to help me grow my bottom line. She said, go figure out what you believe to be about rich people. So I said, well, I don't really know that many. And she said, well, you should get to know some. And I realized that my dad had this I don't know where it came from. He had a personal fear of people with wealth. And there were little side conversations that would happen like, oh, rich people can hurt you and they don't have to follow the same rules. And, you need to stay away from these people because you're not one of them. And I'm like, well, the truth is that I've met a lot of wealthy people at this point. Some of them are very generous, warm, kind-hearted people.
Yes.
Some of them are kind of stingy curmudgeons. So there's not like one, but my dad had one profile. And I realized I had taken that on and I had to really shift my way of thinking about that, or I was going to continue to live that same paradigm over and over. So that's one piece. And that
I just want to say this. I think that's fascinating. And I think everyone listening today would be well served to really examine, like, what are the stories, the narratives we're carrying around about money? Like the little phrases that run through your head almost unconsciously, whether it's like money doesn't grow on trees or like, like your commentary about people with wealth or rich people, like we internalized those messages when we were very young. And I love your saying of like, it doesn't really matter how much money you had around you. It's more, what was your narrative?
What's your narrative?
Yes. And how does that affect that? I think you refer to these as money fantasies.
Right.
That
those
sort of,
fantasies.
they
truth, but we treat them as truths and we make them true. We
literally bring them to life.
Our beliefs create our actions. So if we believe something firmly, we will create an action to create more of that belief. We cannot aspire above our beliefs. I believe it's impossible.
I mean, y'all write that down. We cannot aspire above our beliefs or beyond our beliefs. I mean, that's so important. The belief comes first.
The belief comes first. And then, so when I've worked with clients, one of the things that we've developed is, and one of the things that they don't have a frame. So absent something else to confront our beliefs, so we can do the digging. I think that's super important. We really live better lives. But a personal financial plan done in a very interactive way where you're choosing and making choices around that plan and you're feeling agency around it. So often people come through a planning process and they have transferred agency to the person that's advising them. So they're now putting their trust in this person rather than in themselves. But if you come into a planning process where the planner says, we're going to work together and you're going to make some choices and you're going to see how those played out, and then you're going to feel confident in your own choices, from that space, you can begin to make big shifts also.
And you're starting to dip into some of what you call money truths. I pulled out 5 words. You may have slightly different ones, but responsible, conscious, there's components or pieces and parts of this, choice and energy. Those were like key words. Can you talk a little bit about some of those money truths that when people make a shift out of fantasy land into the truth, it really starts to unlock prosperity?
Yes, absolutely. So when we live from the space of what's really true about money, so my personal choice, one of the things that, you can't start from the place of I'm a victim.
Yes.
Things haven't worked out for me. It just never works out for me, yada, yada. Well, then that's what you're going to create. So the first thing we have to say is I'm not a victim. One of my favorite sayings is, and this happened to me yesterday when I fell.
Uh-oh.
And I said, the universe always conspires for my highest good. So what was the message? Well, the message was, Mackey, you just worked all day Sunday because you thought this was really fun and you wanted to work on this particular new speech you're working on. Maybe you should have taken a little more time off.
Mm-hmm.
When I hurt myself, that's usually what I notice. It's like, I've been working too much.
It's a force break.
Yes, I needed a stress break. So if I can't start from, I have to start from feeling like I can make new choices. If I maybe sometimes you have to just tell yourself that 10 times a day, look in the mirror and say, I'm powerful. I make new choices. I make good choices with money. You fake it till you make it. It just sounds really silly.
It's true.
Very true. Very true.
Hi, it's Cherylanne. Thanks for listening. Did you know that the ideas I share on this show are things I also can help you implement? If you want me in your corner helping you find more time for what fills you up, go to brilliant-balance.com/schedule and sign up for a free exploratory call. Give yourself this time. You'll be so glad you did. When I hear you say fake it till you make it, correct me if I'm wrong, but I internalize that as like, you set the belief or the affirmation or the statement or the intention of what you actually want to be true, even if you don't quite believe it yet. And that is starting to bring your belief in line with that statement. So that's, I think sometimes people are like, what do you mean fake? I think it's you're magnetically pulling yourself toward a truth.
Absolutely.
Something deep in you resonates with, but you aren't quite there yet on, I fully believe. Yeah, I get that. Okay.
And I think the other thing that happens in that, Cherylanne, is you create this break inside yourself of opening, but you sometimes have to walk through a few steps of kind of getting the school of hard knocks before you recognize it. And if I begin to affirm something that I don't particularly believe is true, things will start showing up for me to choose from that will begin to pull me to that new belief. Exactly what you said. I believe it's a pulling process.
Me too. Okay, so sorry, I interrupted you. We're talking about victim versus agency. You got to believe you have some responsibility and choice in this matter. Your beliefs really matter.
They do.
What else on those money truths?
Well, go back through it because tell me again.
I was curious about conscious. I wondered how that connected to intentionality.
Well, I think that's what's one of the things that's powerful about intention. So we are acting out of these unconscious beliefs, right? So once we stated our prosperity intention, and it can be anything. As I said, every client that comes to us writes their own prosperity intention. And when I first started asking people to do this, I thought, what are they going to say? It's like, they say whatever. And nobody has any trouble writing it. Nobody, they might say, I don't know right now, I'm going to go work on it, but they always come back with something beautiful.
And is it sort of the why? Is the prosperity intention really like their why?
Like their why. It could be, I live a life of joy and abundance. That could be a really simple prosperity.
Sure.
Or it could be, I've had people say, I take care of the earth. I take care of my body. I take care, and people write paragraphs.
Sure.
I'd
be writing a whole book to tell you my words girl over here. Yeah. But I get that. I mean, I think so. We're trying to say, what do I want it for? It's long been my experience. And I work with a lot of entrepreneurs and people who kind of have what I describe as unlimited upside, right? They're not in a career where there's like a cap on what their income could be.
Absolutely.
And so getting clear about why do I want it seems to open up the pathway to abundance in a different way than just I have a number in my head or somebody gave me this number or right.
Yeah,
There's like the crispness of that seems to really matter.
And the numbers aren't motivating. I can tell you over and over again, numbers do not motivate people. And they set you up for fear because markets change daily. So if you're going to be successful long-term with money, you've got to be somewhat in the equity markets. So why set yourself up to be like, well, we're in a recession. Things are going to be down for a while. So I'm going to freak out the whole time we're here. Oh, no, that's not it. So
right.
When I'm starting from intent, the other thing is my goals get to be clearer. I used to have this fantasy that I wanted a lake house. And I always say, one of these days I'm going to get a lake house. Well, the truth was I never looked for a lake house. I never thought about much of a lake house. What lake would I put my lake house on? And so one day I said, Mackey, where does lake house? I mean, I'm like a rooted person. Every time I move, I am just a berserk nut. So I'm really going to go to the lake every weekend. Plus, I had a teenager at the time. She was going to be in town. Was I going to be at the lake and leave her in town? No. So I was like, you need to realize that this is just a fantasy. What you really want is the peace of quiet that you perceive you would have at the lake house.
Oh, guys, that's so good. Like it's the feeling that's associated with the vision of the lake house, which means you don't necessarily have to buy a lake house to go get that experience, that feeling. You could rent one for the weekend. You could find a cozy place within your own home that does it. Like so many ways to get there. I love that. And yet, if somebody has a very crisp vision about what the lake house represents, then great, let's go get the lake house, right? It's just, it's got to actually be real, beautiful.
Yeah. I also find if you continue to do more of whatever that word is, that word is for you, joy, if it's always my word, you will get more money because that's what you associate it with. You're now living what you said you want.
Okay, wait, let's say that again. So whatever you're associating money with, like the feeling, the intention behind it, then you go pursue that. The money will come along because you've associated it with. That's beautiful. That's really great. And I think you started to go here when you said, if you really want to build wealth long-term, you're going to be in the equity markets. And at that moment, someone listening went, now we've entered like financial territory I don't understand. And some people were like, yes, Roger that, right? So what I want to do is just talk a little bit about, because we'll have listeners at different levels of comfort with financial terminology. How important is financial planning, financial advising, financial coaching in the pursuit of prosperity?
Well, I would say that you either have to get the knowledge yourself. I was very motivated because I said from the early stage, I loved money. And I had an aunt who taught me how to invest. She gave me $100 when I was 18. It was like, so and she taught me how to do it. I was just thrilled. I was like, this is my happy place. So for people who it's not their happy place, you have to find someone who'll help you put it in happy place perspective for you. And that's really a challenging thing from our environment because we really have two kinds of licensing that people get in the financial field, and you don't always know if they're working your best interest. So it's really hard to navigate. But I would say the most important thing is, how are you feeling inside? Not about do you just trust them, but do you trust the results that the two of you co-create together? It's not about the person. And I've had women, and women are bad about this. They'll say, well, I don't like this advisor. I really don't like to talk to him. I don't like him, but my husband likes him.
Oh, boy.
I'm like, everything in your body is telling you that this isn't your person. Everything is telling you, listen to yourself, listen to your body, listen to your own truth.
And, you and I talked about this a bit when we met, that I have had a financial advisor since I was 20 or 21 years old. That is a long time to be working directly, and two different ones over the course of that duration. And what I found to be incredibly important, and this was, as I got a little older, I think I got more comfortable with this, is humbly just like check your ego at the door, humbly admitting what you don't know or don't understand, and really paying attention to how you feel as they start to advise, educate, provide information. Because if you are going into what I call financial child identity, right? And you are becoming a little girl at that table who is either just head nodding because you think you're supposed to know or afraid to ask questions, right? Like the willingness to be an active learner who is, you don't have to know everything. That's why you're paying them to know more than you do. But you have to be comfortable asking questions and challenging strategies and really getting your arms around the data. Like that would be my advice to our listeners as somebody who's been on the other side of that table is that is everything. And you're speaking to the comfort level, like the kind of energetic comfort level with the person dictates that. So if you have somebody who you're afraid of sitting on the other side of that table because they're, smarter than you and they are throwing out big words you don't understand, you have to be ready to say, hold on, slow down. Let's go back and make sure I understand what that means.
Right.
Do you agree with that?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Like one of my favorite client stories is we had a couple, they were in their 50s. He was a business owner and he was getting ready to exit his business. And you've been using this advisor, if I told you the name of the company, you would recognize it. So, kind of like big name, must be okay.
Sure.
The wife said to me, every time he came to see us, I just wanted to go run in the other room. She said,
oh boy,
all he wanted to talk about was the market. And she said, he never talked about us, so they come in to see us and all the first, I don't know how many meetings, quite a few are, what's your intention? What do you want? What's important to you? And then when we get that done, we'll talk about your investment plan. That's where investments belong. They belong to support your goals.
Yes, they're in service to the goals. Exactly. And so therefore they can change.
Yes. Absolutely.
Your goals change, the strategies can change, right? Your circumstances change, the strategies can change. So I think this is not like the front and center mission of Brilliant Balance for sure, like financial freedom. And however, every time we have brought this topic to the table through a podcast or a training, I continue to be surprised, but also encouraged by kind of the hunger for knowledge that my listeners have, that the women that I'm serving have about this topic. And so I want to go back and hit a couple points we've already covered today before we bring this toward closure. Prosperity as a governing word, right? I think a lot of us have heard about abundance. I think this is similar but different. Prosperity, the time to enjoy your life, the money to pursue your passion. You were talking about time freedom, money freedom, and mind freedom, that you're not worried all the time. Exactly. Right? Nobody wants to be worried all the time. Oh my, that's not prosperity.
No, that's a drain. Oh, yeah. No.
So exhausting. And I know we are. I know collectively there is so much worry. My experience is that the worry is driven by a lack of knowledge. There's too much that's fuzzy, right? We're like, I don't know how much I'd have to save for the next 20 years to make that dream happen. How are you going to put your kids through college seems to be a very common goal that I'm talking about with women. How am I going to retire? Are we going to be able to travel? Can we get this? The not knowing is what's driving all of the anxiety, y'all. So when you start working with someone who can help you put a model around that and really forecast, hey, if you want that, this is what has to be true over these years in between. That's where that, like the freedom starts to come in. Yes. So important.
Yes.
Okay. So
I think is super important and doing that work.
I don't think most people can do that on their own.
The simplest, I think, no, I don't think most people do it on their own because everything that you do on your own, the do it yourself things are too simplistic. Humans are complicated.
Yes.
And, we're not like, I'm going to spend $50,000 a year for the rest of my life. No, you're not.
No, you're not.
You're going to have this amount of needs, and then you're going to send somebody to college. You're going to have this amount of needs, and then you're going to do this, and then so, it doesn't work like that.
No. And I think that's where a professional can start to put they can capture the complexities of your assumptions in a model where you can start to breathe and go, you know what? If I just follow that plan, and if the major assumptions don't change, I'm going to be okay. And then you start to sleep at night, which is what we all want to do, right?
Absolutely.
Is sleep well at night. So it's self-serving if you say it. It's not if I say it, but I really do think financial advising, financial coaching is a good investment for most of us. If you want to feel more confident, you really want to be looking into this.
And the data is pretty clear that people who get an advisor, if they're not, and remember, you have to either do it yourself or you get somebody. If you don't have either one of those things, the chances are you're not going to be very successful. The data shows that over and over again.
And so let's talk a little bit about the risks of not being successful, air quotes, right? If we don't get this right, if we don't really do our due diligence early and start putting the plans in place, like what do you see happening to people later in life when they haven't made great decisions earlier?
Well, unfortunately, the longer you procrastinate, the harder it is.
Sure.
Because a little bit of money saved early on is tremendously impactful. I started saving for my nieces and nephews when they were born because they get so much Christmas stuff. So now they have several $1,000s in stock. It's not a lot, but when I was 20, nobody had I didn't have $5,000 running around in my account.
Right.
Just do whatever I wanted to do with. So, you can actually model that for people. But the earlier we save, the less we have to save. And people think, well, $100 doesn't matter. Yes, it does. If it does matter, establishing a habit that you stick with. And I always say, if you've never saved money, just think of the smallest amount possible that you can actually commit to, and you're going to save no matter what, and do it and see, doesn't it change your life? If you do that for 3 months, you will look back, or 6 weeks. You will look back and you say, "Oh my goodness!" I've had people call me and say, "Mackey, I have $1,000. I never had $1,000." And so now I'm really motivated to do it again.
That's the momentum, right? You're building momentum. I think honestly, probably the best thing my parents ever told me was essentially live within your means, which to them meant spend less than you make, right? If you just always are spending less than you make and you are taking that extra and plunking it away somewhere, and again, that accrued later into equities and different investment vehicles. But that concept is also very rooted in this notion of security, of peace, of the peace of mind that we want to have around money. Love it. Okay. So the best time to start was a long time ago. If you didn't start a long time ago, the best time to start is now. So this is not something that I want people listening to delay on, right? If you have kind of had pressing on you, I got to do something to get my financial life in order. Consider today one more sign in that direction that you probably do. And again, you may be better off than you think, but knowledge is power. We really want to have our arms around it.
I say that most people who come in think they're worse off than they are. That's very, very true.
Yeah, because we're all just running around like anxiety bunnies all the time, right? So is there a simple step or two that people should take in their local markets, wherever they are? How can they find their way to you? How can they find their way to a level of support?
Well, you can find us at theprosperitypeople.com. We work with people all over the country. It doesn't matter where people are anymore. We're all on Zoom. Or talk to your friends, people, and talk to them. About how they feel about their advisor and what kind of questions they talk to their advisor about, and how do they work with their advisor. Don't just talk to them about, do you trust them? Everybody's going to say yes. They wouldn't be there if they didn't trust, because money and trust, that's a biggie. We have to come together. But, just truly see if you can understand what they're saying to you about how they work with that person. If you're going to go, so I'd start there.
So referral from a friend, somebody who they trust and are having a good experience with, will link to your business so people can find their way to you. And I think what you shared with everyone earlier is assess fit. Really check in with yourself. Is this feeling right? Do I feel good about this relationship? Do I feel like I can be myself, ask my questions, and not feel judged? I think that's a super important kind of headspace to be in.
I'll say one more thing. My book, The Intersection of Joy and Money.
Yes.
Or if you email me directly at Mackey@MackeyAdvisors.com, Mackey@MackeyAdvisors.com, I will send you one free of charge. If you're willing to do that, I will send you a free book.
Wow. Okay. We're going to link that up as well. So people listening, Mackey@MackeyAdvisors.com, and you can get a free copy of The Intersection of Joy and Money. Wow. That is generous, Mackey. Thank you for that for our listeners. That's so sweet.
Just all you need is one new idea out of there,
And you'll get tons. Y'all, I don't know that we'll release the full video, but I have the book right in front of me. When Mackey and I were setting this up, I was like, okay, I just went through this whole workbook. I have a couple of questions for you. And I learned a ton. And again, that is somebody who, I have an MBA. I've been working with an advisor for almost 30 years, and I still learned things that I could take away out of this. So I hope you all really get your copies and enjoy. Thank you for joining us today. You are, as always, an absolute delight, and it is no surprise to me that your business has prospered because you are such an extraordinary human. So thank you for sharing your wisdom and time with us.
Oh, thank you for having me. It's been a joy. Always a joy to be with you.
All right. I am confident that you are taking something away from this episode that is exciting and inspiring and might just spur you on to the next level of prosperity thinking. And I think that is such a wonderful way to frame this. We've talked so much about financial freedom, but this concept of prosperity almost takes it to the next level. I particularly am grateful for Mackey's generous offer that if you email her, Mackey, which is Mackey at mackeyadvisors.com directly, she will send you a copy of her book. You also can get her book anywhere that books are sold if you are so inclined. And I would love for you to do that. We will link to them in the show notes. And I am particularly interested to hear from you with what you took away from today's episode. So there are just some episodes that I know are going to change someone's life, and this is one of them. So if you heard something today that really unlocked a piece of the puzzle for you and you know you're going to do things just a little bit differently going forward, I'd love to hear from you. The best way to get in touch with me is via DM. On Instagram, just find me at cskolnicki and let me know what you're taking away from this episode and carrying with you. That's all for today, my friends. Till next time, let's be brilliant.
This is thepodcastfactory.com.